Welcome, fellow Tartarianists. The following's taken from Chapter 8 of my book, Tesla and the Cabbage Patch Kids. Then come the World Fairs. This is on another level altogether. From just after the reset in 1776, we saw the start of the grandest events in the world, where the very latest technology was on display in every major city. From Edison's invention of the light bulb in 1880 to the very first incubator by Martin Cooney in 1896. The buildings, grounds and statues, as well as the interior design that went into these, is simply staggering. Many resembled temples you would find in the Far East or when Rome had its empire, and many of them supposedly built in under a year, only to be demolished within as little as 6 months, often after accidental fires. By 1870, there had been over 75 World Fairs in as far away as China and Samoa, with travelling to these places then not exactly being very easy. Not only that, but to transport the innovations on display would have taken a great deal of effort, especially by sea. And also, how did they get the people to come? They claimed that at the Chicago World Exhibition in 1893, over a quarter of the population attended. But how? Where did they stay? And how did they travel across the country when all they had was a horse and buggy? Just the logistics of this number of people attending would be impossible today and would blow Disneyland right out of the water. It is my opinion that the World Fairs were housed in Tartarian and Moor palaces, simply to demonstrate what they wanted us to believe early settlers were capable of constructing. At the same time, these events could showcase old and reverse-engineered Tartarian technology and Antiquitech, now perfected and ready for mass public consumption. Inventions presented at these World Fairs included the electric telegraph, microscopes, thunderstorm registers, the Ferris wheel, moving sidewalks, aerosol paints, juicy fruit chewing gum, and later on, the fax machine, telephone and neon lights. Two of the most famous inventors to have their innovations on display there are Thomas Edison and Nikola Tesla. I want to pay particular attention to Chicago's event in 1893. This was known as the World's Columbian Exposition. Only some 20 years earlier, Chicago had literally been burnt to the ground with an accidental fire in October 1871. The narrative states that it was caused by an Irish immigrant who left a lantern unattended in her cowshed, which was then knocked over by one of the cattle. The fire left over a third of the population homeless. They then rebuilt the entire city within just a few years. These days it would take around 5 years to knock up a soulless housing estate. So when you consider that at the same time they also managed to design and build one of the largest world fairs in the era, covering some 800 acres, it's nothing short of either a miracle or a blatant lie. Coincidentally, this expo was also known as the White City, having had the buildings painted white. My guess is that they were already there, and with all the other world fairs, whitewashing hid a multitude of clues that would connect them to the old world and the lost Tartarian Empire. In another strange blow, it was almost impossible to enter the event unless you were white. They also managed to lose 30 children, with 10 never being seen again, and there were 954 arrests. On display at this event was an Eskimo village with natives of the Dahamo showing traditional methods of fighting, dancing and singing. In the guidebook they described the women as masculine and not very attractive, and the men as being effeminate. They even showcased a Moor village with huge emphasis on them being primitive. Here are just a few inventions that went on display for the very first time. The dishwasher, Quaker oats, shredded wheat, braille books, giant fruit, and a Viking ship that was apparently sailed all the way to America from Norway. The entire city lasted 2 years and it was accidentally set on fire. What was left of the structures and statues was then blown up using dynamite. Another interesting expo of the time was the Lewis Purchase Fair, held in 1904. This one covered 1,200 acres, with pride of place going to a 65-foot statue of the Golden Lady, also known as the Statue of the Republic. This was solid copper and covered in gold leaf, but along with the rest of the fair, was destroyed at the end. This particular expo was apparently dominated by Nikola Tesla, who redirected energy all the way to St. Louis from the Niagara Falls. Amazing when you consider electricity had only just been invented or rediscovered. Along with the moving sidewalk around the entire grounds, as well as an electric train transporting visitors around the site, they even managed to quickly knock up a series of canals. However, pride of place went to the 395-foot electrical tower, illuminated by 500,000 light bulbs. It was called the Goddess of Light and had a solid gold statue, again, of the Golden Lady perched on the top. Just imagine how many generators and miles of cabling you would need to create this, even today. But regrettably, the entire city was blown up with dynamite shortly after it closed.